Hello, it's James, your plant stylist and coach at Pistols and Pollen. One of the questions I get asked all the time by my houseplant clients and my community members in my online community is, how do you select a houseplant at your local nursery or plant shop? Now, there are a few things that I look for, and it's pretty straightforward. Number one, I do a general analysis of the plant. You know, when you walk into your plant shop or your local nursery or your local big box store, you want to make sure that you're looking for a plant that just looks healthy, right? Does it have green leaves? Does it have brown spots or yellow leaves or brown edges that look like the plant might not just be happy, right? That's number one. It's first and foremost, and it almost goes without saying, but it shouldn't. It's an important first step. Number two, another thing that I do is I like to get a little bit closer to the plant. After my sort of general first impression of all of the plants in front of me, I like to narrow in on one or two or three that look like they've got nice structure. They're full, they look vibrant, there isn't damage on them, and then I do a deep dive into the foliage. I look to see if there are any noticeable signs of infestation. Does it look like something's been nibbling on the leaves? Do I see any bugs or webbing? Those might be signs of anything from thrips to scale to spider mites. Is there any sticky residue on the leaves? That sort of thing. Does something look off? And if that's the case, I'll quickly move on to another section, probably entirely, because if one of those plants has insect infestation in it, it's likely that some of the surrounding plants have that as well. It's not always the case, but it might be possible. So I tend to move on and keep looking. Okay, number three, what's the third thing that I do? After I've given a general look at the plant to make sure that it looks healthy, I've made sure that there aren't any pests as far as I can tell from a cursory analysis, I like to pick up the plant and check to see, is the plant looking like it's been sitting in water for an extended period of time? Sometimes, especially in big box stores, a plant can sit in water or it can be left to dry out. So by picking up the plant out of the pot, if it's in a cache pot, or just sort of lifting it up to see how heavy it feels, I can see, does this plant seem too light? Does it seem like it's dried out? Or conversely, does it seem really, really heavy? Is the soil soaking wet? Or has, even worse, been sitting in a puddle of water for an extended period of time? Because even if the plant looks happy, if the roots have been sitting in water, it may take a few days or a week before the plant starts to show any sort of noticeable signs of damage because of the root rot that it has been sitting in water for too long. The fourth thing that I do when I'm looking for a houseplant, wherever it may be, is I like to always take a look at the roots of the plant. Now, I'll say this, if I'm at a small plant shop, a local mom and pop sort of store, or a high-end nursery where maybe somebody is helping me out, they're pointing me in another direction, or there's sort of just people around to help you, I always like to ask the shop owner or somebody who's helping me, do you mind if I just take a quick look at the roots of this plant? The reason I do that is because, you know, if you're in somebody's shop, they might more than likely be thrilled to show you the roots of the plant that you're about to buy, but they might want to do it in a place where it's easier for them to clean up. I just think it's a professional courtesy when you're a guest in somebody's shop to ask before you create a mess on their floor. Now, if you're in a big box store, there's probably not likely to be somebody there to help you, but I try to be as respectful as I can in that environment even still, and try not to make a mess. If the plant is very happy and healthy and the root ball is nicely filling out the soil mass of the pot, it's going to be pretty easy to lift up that plant from the pot and take a look at those roots. And what you're looking for are nice, healthy, thick roots. Now, I'm generalizing a little bit here because some plants like a fern are going to have really fine hair-like roots, and other plants like some philodendron and monstera are going to have really thick and juicy roots. And so if you're not quite sure what to look for, at the very least, the one thing that you're looking for is to make sure that there's no root rot. So if you can lift it up and take a look at it, first of all, is it filling out the soil mass nicely? If it is, that's a good sign. Sometimes I'll give it a little sniff and just see if I smell any signs of rot, because sometimes you can't see it, but you can definitely smell it. And then finally, if you go to pull that plant out of the pot and the soil is wet and the roots come out and there's just a little bit of roots, that's not a really good sign. It means that the plant likely doesn't have the roots to support it. And even if it does, there's too much soil, the soil is gonna stay too wet for too long, and you're probably gonna develop root rot or overwatering issues at some point during the life of your plant. After I've put the plant back in its pot, I've looked at the roots, I've made sure that there isn't an insect infestation, there aren't any brown spots or rotting spots or yellow edges on the plant, that plant looks healthy overall. At that point, if I have multiple choices, if I have 2 or 3 really good plants with a beautiful structure to it, it all comes down just to a personal vibe. You know what I'm talking about if you've ever been in that situation. You're lucky enough to have 2 or 3 plants, they all look really healthy, they all look really happy. Which one is yours? I mean, that's a personal question, right? I don't know, does that make me weird? Like I can just connect with a plant like you can with a pet or another person? I don't know, but I think that it's a thing, I think it's real, and I hope you'll let me know if that's the case for you. If you go through all of this and you find that you're lucky enough to come down to just connecting with a plant and vibing with it, and you feel it and you know it, let me know. Let me know in the comments or head over to my online plant club community and let me know there. And that's it. Those are my top tips for finding a houseplant, whether it's at a big box store, a local nursery, or a local plant shop. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks. Take care.